It's true that Gohan has shown a lot of improvement as a fighter, but it just isn't possible for him to have suddenly become the perfect person. With that in mind, maybe we shouldn't have been surprised to hear that soon Gohan is going to mess up bad again. Really think about it. Those mistakes you saw in Dragon Ball Z haven't shown up much in Dragon Ball Super. But this is terrible. The soul we saw in Gohan when he was just a kid that always ended up causing trouble for his family is starting to show up again. But now, the stakes are so much higher. This time, Gohan's soul will fail Universe 7 worse than ever before. Against Cell, you saw Gohan didn't believe in himself.
Don't you realize that he's been keeping up with the rest of us ever since he was just a little boy?
No one except for Goku believed that a child could beat this evil monster. Then, once Gohan decided to listen to his dad, things only got worse. He couldn't bring himself to fight to his fullest, even against such an evil person. But then he was pushed past his limits, and the power made him cocky. His dad was forced to take the fall himself, which made Gohan start to doubt himself again. In the end, everything turned out fine. But what wasn't okay is that he didn't learn his lesson. His weaknesses were still there. He didn't even learn how to fix his mistakes after this happened. The proof that he still hadn't learned his lesson yet came during the time of peace after Buu had been defeated. Gohan decided to give up on training completely, and that was actually his weaknesses coming out. He didn't think he needed to train anymore because he was too confident that evil would never return. And even if it did, he knew Goku could handle it. It might seem like that was just being cocky, but it was really Gohan putting his trust on someone other than himself. In other words, he was doubting himself. And when he gave up to Frieza, it was Piccolo who took the fall for him this time. All of a sudden, Gohan was able to stand again, even with the many wounds he had. That tells you it wasn't just the physical strength he'd lost by not training that made him just sit there. He was mostly doubting himself. As you see, every time someone gets hurt because of him, Gohan forgets all about the doubts he has in himself, and his true power comes out. But the thing is, this was the first time Gohan actually learned from his mistakes and started to eliminate his weaknesses. You might be thinking Gohan didn't really start maturing until the Tournament of Power came, because he put a meeting he had for work over going to the tournament between Universes 6 and 7. But that isn't true, and here's why. He was learning how to bring balance to his life, something very important to maturing as a person. Gohan isn't a battle-hungry Saiyan like Vegeta and Goku. He also enjoys reading and the business life that he chose. Remember, that tournament had nothing to do with survival, so it wasn't extremely important for Gohan to join. He was just balancing out the training that he now knew he had to keep up with, but also trying to continue climbing in the business world that he enjoys. But when the exhibition match for Zeno came, things were completely different. It didn't matter about his job anymore, and we started to really see Gohan's weaknesses starting to disappear. As soon as Goku told him that the match would lead to a tournament in which all the losing universes would be erased, Gohan instantly put the universe and his family over everything else. But there wasn't any time for extra training before the exhibition match started, and that's why one of his weaknesses showed up during this match. But the difference this time was that his growth as a person and as a fighter also showed up. Gohan decided it was his turn to fight. He was ready for a challenge to test the strength that he had been trying to get back in his training with Piccolo. But there was a huge problem, something he would encounter again later during the Tournament of Power. The fighter he was about to face had undetectable energy. This made Gohan nervous. He thought to himself that he needed to take things slow, but his dad yelled out to him, almost as if he could hear his thoughts, and told him that he shouldn't. And that reminded Gohan to stop doubting himself. This was just the kind of challenge he was looking for, but that wasn't even close to the end of what Gohan had to show you. This fighter was able to blind Gohan with his poison. One of the big differences between the exhibition match and the Tournament of Power was that Senzu beans were actually allowed. So the Supreme Kai instantly tried to give him one, but Gohan refused. This was another moment of Gohan maturing into a much stronger fighter. He wanted to be the underdog. That was the only way to truly push himself. Remember, at that time, Gohan was one of the few who already knew Zeno-sama's dark rules for the coming Tournament of Power. He already knew that he was training to protect his family from being erased. These are the conditions that Gohan has always worked best in, being the underdog and having no other way but to push himself harder. And this time was no different. What was different between this fight and all his other fights is that he had volunteered to be the underdog. He wanted to put himself in that place. He no longer was being forced to get stronger. Now it was something he wanted. But there's something you gotta remember. There's a pretty big difference between knowing that the chance of being erased is coming and actually being in the middle of the fight for your survival. And that means that Gohan may have already been pushing himself and showing signs of maturing as a fighter, but his real test still hadn't come yet. Now that they are actually in the Tournament of Power, we've seen some of the same maturity from Gohan that we saw during the exhibition match, but we're also about to see some of the same childish ways from when he was a teenager start to show back up again. In his first major fight during the Tournament of Power, Gohan was faced with a fighter that left him in a similar situation as in the fight during the exhibition match. The man from Universe 10 was able to shift his internal energy around. This of course made Gohan nervous, but what had changed is that you never saw him start to doubt himself. He never once wondered if he would be able to figure out where his opponent was. Gohan instead stayed patient and trusted in his own powers. And just like in that last battle, he was eventually able to detect where his opponent was coming from. This fight was a great example of the changes you've seen in Gohan's growth as a person and as a fighter. For one, he was able to keep his composure, something he had learned through his training with Piccolo just before the Tournament of Power. Piccolo had pointed out a few very important lessons to Gohan, and these lessons are what would almost erase Gohan's two weaknesses. The first was that he was overeager. Basically, Gohan was panicking. He was so worried and wasting time doubting his own ability to save his family that he wasn't thinking clearly. All he could do was think about winning, and Piccolo pointed out that would lead Gohan into a quick trap to lose. He would be so focused on the win that he would be paying no attention to the actual person he was fighting, which means he would underestimate them. Another thing Piccolo pointed out was that once Gohan was able to break through those doubts about himself and actually power up fully, he showed an overconfidence that he only could have gotten from his dad. Another perfect way to let his guard down. And we definitely did not see either one of those mistakes in this battle versus the last fighter from Universe 10. In fact, I'd say that one of the biggest tests that we had for Gohan's powers was right after this win. The man he just eliminated left behind a locket with a picture of his wife and child, which of course was an exact copy of Gohan and his new family. And that must have been really hard to take in, especially for Gohan, who had a hard time hurting someone evil like Cell. This man, on the other hand, wasn't evil at all. He was just like Gohan, trying to save his family and his universe. But Gohan didn't lose it when he looked down at the locket. You could see the pain in his face, but he still kept it together. He realized that there was no justice in the Omni King's eyes. This was all just for Zeno-sama to have fun. There were zero consequences for him, like there were for the fighters on his dark playground. Instead, Gohan proved that he is truly capable of erasing his two weaknesses. Those weaknesses have yet to come back up for the entire tournament up to this point. He even seemed like he was about to push past his limits while fighting the three-way fusion between the robots of Universe 3. It's just that Goku and Vegeta decided to jump in to help before anything like that could happen. Even while fighting Aniraza, he never seemed to doubt himself, nor did he ever seem to get overconfident. But things are about to change. Gohan will be given the very rare chance to take down Toppo, a man with enough power to make him a candidate for Universe 11's next God of Destruction. But the thing is, in order to take him down, he'll be forced to also eliminate Android 17, and this will cause Gohan to hesitate. This is the first sign of the old Dragon Ball Z Gohan that we haven't seen yet during this entire Tournament of Power arc start to come back. And while you're probably thinking this setback for Gohan's maturity is just proving that Gohan will never fully mature, I think this will only push him further, because now he will see that he's made things worse for his team. The same as when he forced Goku to pick up his slack versus Cell and Majin Buu, and when Piccolo stepped in front of him to take on Frieza's attacks. That means that the same as with all the times he caused trouble for the ones he loves, this will make Gohan power up harder than ever before again. In fact, I want you to really think about something and ask yourself, have you seen both of Gohan's weaknesses during Dragon Ball Super? We've seen him get nervous and doubt in his powers. What you haven't seen though is him getting cocky against anyone. That's proof that he really is eliminating his weaknesses and finding his unlocked potential. But But now that we are seeing a glimpse of the old Gohan, it does make you wonder. The power that this setback will probably force him into getting could be too much for him. It might be like the other times that he broke his limits, causing him to get overconfident with his opponents. Doing this will 100% lead to his elimination, which will completely end Universe 7's chances to win. But can't he depend on his dad to save the day? The answer to that question is actually iffy. Goku's about to regain all of his energy back, but his biggest problem won't go away just because of that. But remember, Goku shares one of Gohan's weaknesses. This dad and his son are about to face that fact head on as they go up against the strongest. And in those fights, they